Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Today I am very excited to be doing an installation video of this Zenitco PT-3 stock. This is something I've been wanting to get for a while. I finally got around to getting it. And I wanted to mention that this is going to be just an installation video. Normally I do installation plus review videos, and I am going to be doing a review on this stock, but that's going to be coming at a later date, most likely next week. However, I wanted to separate this into two videos for a lot of reasons. One of the big ones being that I want more time behind this to test it and give a better opinion on it. So on another note regarding this being kind of segregated into two separate videos, if you have any questions about this stock and I haven't uploaded the review yet, then feel free to leave them on this video and I can make sure to either answer them in the comments here or I can answer them in the video that I do on it. Otherwise, if you're watching this later in the future when I have already done the review, then please watch that one first before you ask stuff about that, because this is going to be just an installation video. And theoretically, this should be identical to Zenitco's installation video. However, I have heard other reviews mention that you need to do some filing on this, so I'll see if that's actually the case. Hopefully it's not too hard, but getting started. So the very first thing we need to do before actually installing that stock is to take this one off. So to do that, I've already done a video on how to remove these types of side folding stocks, but for the sake of completion and to mention a few other points as well that I didn't mention in that original video, I will be doing it again here. At the minimum, you will need to, well, in the case of this Zenitco B33 receiver cover, you need to lift it out of the way, but on a normal dust cover, you'd want to remove it completely. At the minimum, that's what you need to do. I think it'll probably be easier to get things out of the way to just do a field strip. Zenitco's instructions recommends that you remove the pistol grip so that when you're hammering the pin in or out as well, that you don't damage this. I haven't had an issue with that myself, but if you have an oversized pistol grip, you may have that issue. So I'm going to get this field stripped and I'm going to go and set up the camera somewhere else that I can actually hammer on a bit better. So I will see you all in just a moment. So now that you at the least have the dust cover off, in my case I did a full field strip, but what you're going to want to do is get the stock unlocked, just like so. Flip it upside down, and that right there is the pin that we're going to need to drive out. So in my case I'm just going to be using this punch here. You can probably use some of the tools from the stock to take this out, but this works really well. And you're just going to line it up on the pin and just hit it out with a hammer. In my case, I am going to cover this with a little paper towel just to shield it a little bit from not damaging the finish. And one thing I've heard, a few people commented on the previous video where I was actually just talking about how to remove and install these types of stocks. If the pin doesn't come out, obviously make sure you followed all the rest of the steps up to this point, but actually, you know, this isn't like a baby. Like, hit it really hard. It sounds really simple, but hit it really hard. Otherwise, it probably won't come out. And some stocks will be tighter than others. Mine is a little bit on the tight side, so that wasn't too bad though. It's already coming out. That's probably out enough at this point to where I can just finish it up by hand. You can see I did actually miss it a little bit there at the start, but that's very minor. This should, if you wiggle it around a bit, it should just come loose on its own. I might use like a pair of pliers at this point, or if it still doesn't come out, you could always just take the hammer back to it. Alright, so this is the pin. I got it out. One thing I would recommend if you actually went the same route I did with using a punch, try using like one of these T-handled hex keys. They work pretty well for this. They're the perfect size. In my case, once I got that T-handle out, it just came right out. So now for the actual installation of the PT-3. So I'm going to switch camera angles again and I'll be right back. I suppose now would be a good time to just really quickly mention, if you are in the US and you're installing this and you have a bunch of other Zenitco furniture, if you really care about it, you know, just make sure you're not going over the parts limit for 922R. In my case, I've changed out all of the internal parts for their US equivalent that are compliant and all of that garbage. So, stupid law, unenforceable, but I feel like I should probably mention it now, with that out of the way. This is a little different from installing a normal, just side folding stock. So this here, this part that's dangling around on this cable tie, is the stock adapter. Since this is a 4.5mm pin, They have different adapters for different diameters, but this doesn't actually stay on, of course, with installation, so we're going to need to cut this cable tie. Now, I believe that how this works is, so this is a little awkward of an angle. Hopefully you can see this well enough. I even have my brightness at the max with my lighting here, but taking this, the stock adapter, you can see the set screw is facing outwards. Should go right here, and then the PT-3 itself over there will go under it. Let me see if I can hold this all together at the same time. It'll just sit like that. So then the pin, which by the way, it comes out when you're pushing it out, you know, you hit it out from the bottom. It comes out this way, and you have to reinsert it from the top as well. So it will go through the stock adapter, the pin will, I mean, and then it'll go through the PT-3 stock itself, which is a little fidgety to actually get lined up properly. I don't think I'm going to record this part. This seems like it'll be really, it's already super awkward to hold it in this position, and if I was trying to work around a camera, I'm not going to. So, you know, this is literally all I'm going to do, is just push the pin back through, just straight up, reverse the process that I did earlier. So when you're doing this, make sure you're hammering from the top of the rifle. Make sure that you have the pin oriented the correct way, as I was showing previously. So the thin part of this pin will go in first, so just like this, if you have it upside down like I do now. Otherwise, yeah, just got to make sure that all of these three parts don't move in the installation, or it won't go in properly. So again, you know, same stuff applies, just make sure you're hammering it with enough force, and yeah, just exactly a reverse of the previous segment. So I'm going to go do that. I will be right back. Sorry I don't have actual footage of the installation process. However, it really is as simple as I'm describing it, but I cannot stress enough how difficult it actually was to get everything aligned. I'm recording this after doing it, and it really would have been probably an hour-long process trying to get everything lined up had I tried to work around the camera as well. So this is on. That was pretty awkward to hold in place. One thing I will say is if you are having trouble lining up the pins, one thing I noticed is I actually had to push down their stock lock here in order to get it to all line up properly, and then it was super easy from there. Now, one thing that I noticed, and so this is what I was reading on reviews, is a lot of people were saying that this needs filing to fit with a side mount, and mine has the side mount, and I'm actually not going to lock the stock out because it's really tight at the moment, which I'll talk about more later. But just on this at the moment, people were mentioning if you have the side mount that you need to file it, and I assumed it would be like it wouldn't lock, but it actually is locking. You can see, however, this should be up all the way where it locks right here. So it's like partially locking, but it is locking. It is held in place. You can see if I shake it, the stock doesn't come loose. Could either file a little bit where it makes contact with the side mount when it's, I should say, when it's fully collapsed, as it is now, it makes contact. If I extend this all the way, or even just a little bit more, and I need to actually loosen this, you can see it clears it completely, so it's not an issue. But even when it is fully collapsed, it doesn't actually collide. It almost does, but it's still locking. So I could file a bit there on the side of the stock, on this side. Or I was thinking I could also file a bit at the actual adapter area here. You can see, so when it locks out, this pops up just right at that point there where it's making contact. And now, the other thing I was mentioning is this is an extremely tight fit currently. I've been just kind of trying to work it in at the moment. I may have to do a bit of filing, but currently, when this is locked out, pretty much no amount of force will unlock it. Sometimes, wow, okay, I guess now that I'm recording, apparently the stock is a sentient entity, a sentient entity, and it knows when I'm recording because this was not unlocking earlier, and I actually had to hit it unlocked with a hammer. So maybe all of this has already loosened it up, but I was thinking if you are having issues with it being overly tight, you could file a bit right here. This is where it makes contact with the lock when it's locked out. But I don't know, as I've been working it in, actually, this is getting more and more of a just good fit. So I think I might leave it. I am very surprised, actually, that this didn't require any filing. It was a really weird coincidence that I was actually able to unlock the stock there when I was recording, because after the fact, every single other time that I have tried to unlock it, I have had significant trouble, as I was kind of alluding to. So I have no idea why it worked this single time when I was actually recording, because I haven't been able to replicate it since. I still have to use a mallet to push it out, so I'm still looking into possibly filing this a bunch more to get it a bit looser. So I'm back to the workbench. This is actually the next day from when I recorded everything else in this video, so hopefully it still flows decently well. But I wanted to mention, so this right here, the fact that I couldn't fold this at all was really bothering me. This was insanely tight. This is the mallet that I was using to try to fold it. I would just hit it every time. And I was looking, and this morning when I woke up, I was thinking, like, what is causing it to be so tight? I compared it with my old stock here, and you can see this part right here, this kind of oval or rectangular shape where the side folding mechanism on the gun interfaces and locks in to the stock part. On this Arsenal stock, I did a measurement with the calipers, and if I remember right, this was either 0.18 or 0.175 inches, somewhere around there. However, on this Zenitco PT-3, this was 0.135, so it doesn't sound like a whole lot, but when you're talking about kind of a smaller part already, I was feeling like that is certainly what's causing the issue with it being so crazy tight. And it sounds like a lot of people are actually having a similar issue. I've seen other comments like on Zenitco's PT3 video, and people were mentioning this is like absurdly tight. But this actually fixed it. I had to, so right here you can see I dremelled like crazy. I actually used up an entire Dremel bit taking this off. Admittedly, I don't know, it was kind of a weaker one anyway, but if you're having an issue with it being way too tight, just on this side right here, so going towards the stock when it's folded like this, try dremeling that and widening it up. Obviously don't do too much, you don't want your stock to wobble, but I got it to the perfect spot to where now this is actually easier to press. Still requires a pretty firm press, but this is actually easier now to unlock and fold to the side than even on this Arsenal stock, which I had previously. So really awesome. It did take a while. Definitely just do a tiny bit at a time and then check it again. It depends, like if you have calipers and you have a stock that's working well for you to unlock, maybe do the same thing, measure from this side to this side across and see the difference there on yours, because who knows, there's of course some differences in tolerances between the gun itself, the stock itself, so you might not have to do this at all. You may have to do a tiny bit. In my case, I actually had to do a pretty big amount. I was out here for about an hour and a half, I think, maybe a bit more than that. I don't really have a good sense of time when I'm out there working on stuff, so when I came back in and checked the clock and started editing this little segment here, it actually took 30 minutes, not an hour and a half. So actually very reasonable amount of time. It's boring work, but not actually that bad as far as the time investment goes. But now it is nice, no wobble, everything works nicely, and it is really easy to fold. By the way, I almost forgot to mention this because mine is such a tight fit, but if yours happens to be too loose, everything in this little bag that Zenitco also sends with the stock can be used to tighten it down. So the hex key here can be used to tighten down the set screw in the stock adapter. And then this piece of just rubber here, I watched Zenitco's video, they mentioned you just put that right in here and that can of course tighten it up quite a bit. But in my case, it is already on the really tight side, so almost forgot to mention that. But, you know, if you are having that issue, then these should probably do the trick. Of course, I'm not going to be using them here. I will end it here. If you have any questions about the installation itself, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Otherwise, if there's anything else you want to know about the stock, as I said at the start, if I've already released the review, then please watch that first in case I've already answered your question. If not, then feel free to leave it there. Otherwise, thank you all for watching. I'm going to be practicing a lot with this, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you all most likely in next week's video when I actually do a review on the features of the stock, because there's a lot of cool things here. Other than that, I will see you all then. Take care.